I bought this 97 Land Cruiser totaled, but I saw the potential. Follow along as I bring that vision to life. Back in step 25, I mentioned that the rear passenger window wasn't rolling up or down. My first instinct was a bad switch, so I grabbed a good switch from the driver's side and plugged it into the passenger side. Since that didn't work, I then thought it was a wiring issue. I pulled up the wiring diagram for the window switch and began testing each connection. Everything pointed to the window motor itself. To confirm, I unplugged the harness and grabbed my multimeter. I connected the probes to the positive and negative terminals of the harness going to the motor. Then, with the car in accessory mode, I pressed up and saw 12 volts on the meter, and pressing down showed the same, which then proved the regulator motor was faulty. I pulled a used regulator from a parts truck, so I decided to test it first. I plugged it in, turned the car on, and pressed the switch. The window motor ran perfectly, so it was time to pull the bad one. To start, I unclipped the white harness retainer from the door. I removed the Phillips screws holding the door latch, peeled back the adhesive around the seal, and pulled the latch through the opening for more space. Then I removed the four 10mm bolts securing the regulator. With those out, I slid the roller off the track and slowly worked the regulator free from the door. The regulator itself looked fine, actually better than the used one I got, so I decided to keep it and just swap the motors. I removed the 3 Torx screws from the donor regulator and set it aside. Then I tried to remove the old motor from my original regulator. I could reach 2 Torx screws easily, but the third one was blocked by the track. Since the motor didn't work, I could remove the track electronically, so I carefully bent the motor mount back and forth until it snapped free, making sure not to damage the gear teeth. That gave me just enough clearance to slide the track and remove the final Torx screw. With the old motor off, I cleaned the entire regulator track and moved the track back into position. I noticed some corrosion and old grease on the new motor shaft, so I wiped it down thoroughly. Then I added a layer of marine grease on the gear interface where the motor shaft meets the track. I pressed the motor into the regulator, aligned the gears, and tightened the 3 Torx screws to complete the assembly. I did quickly test the motor before moving on. At first, I reassembled everything with the window in the up position, which was a mistake. I realized pretty quickly that the glass needed to be fully lowered for the regulator to line up. So I dropped the glass, powered the track to the bottom, and slid the regulator in between the door panel and the glass. I made sure the bottom roller was seated on the window rack and hand tightened the 10mm bolts before final torque. Once everything was secure, I plugged in the motor harness, turned the ignition to accessory mode, and pressed the switch, and the window moved. I won't lie, it felt like a win. Now, as you can see, it still moves a little slow, especially near the bottom. That's due to the aging window runs. For now, I sprayed the inner and outer window runs and tracks with WD-40 silicone spray to help the condition. Cycling the window a few times definitely helped, though it's still not perfect. I also used a small flathead screwdriver to scrape up the grime in the window channels, which also made a difference. Finally, I put everything back together, including securing the rear door speaker. And with that, the rear passenger window is fully functional again. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit the follow button to see the next step in the restoration.